today we are going to sequence the plot of A Long Walk to Water. We will understand the meaning of plot, exposition, conflict, rising action, climax, falling action, and resolution. And we will complete a plot diagram which is found in your packet. Again, this is Selpa and Naya from our story. How exciting! The first day we watched a short clip from a video called Just Add Water, and I wanted to mention that you can finish the rest of it. It is found, the link for Just Add Water is found in the Above and Beyond choice board. It's a pretty cool summary of our book. Let's talk a little bit about plot.
A plot's not anything but a sequence of events. And every story has a plot, because a story without a plot is like a fish out of water. Or like pancakes without syrup. Or like a shoe without some laces. You wouldn't wear shoes without laces, would you? Would you? You got a story to tell, you better have a plot. If it doesn't, am I listening? No I'm not. First, introduce the conflict and characters, then the action rises. It may get scarier, the climax is when things go nuts. The action falls away, then we wrap it up. Yup, that's the conclusion. Make your plot hot, and you're never losing. Let's take a second now to focus on plot. You want to learn to tell a cool story or not? The beginning of the story is the introduction. We get to meet the characters, find out something about the main conflict or main problem. We're dying to know how the characters will solve them. The conflict unravels in 3 phases. Rising action is the first stage. It's the middle of the story where you build suspense. Whatever the problem is, it gets intense until the turning point hits. That's called the climax. The character changes, accepts new facts, and may have to make a choice based on what happened. The tension decreases, that's the falling action with the conflict resolved. You can wrap a loose end in the last section that we call the conclusion. You got a story to tell, you better have a plot. If it doesn't, am I listening? No I'm not. First, introduce the conflict and characters, then the action rises. It may get scarier, the climax is when things go nuts. The action falls away, then we wrap it up. Yup, that's the conclusion. Make your plot hot, and you're never losing. Let's break down the plot of a story called The Date, with 2 characters who are not the same. In the introduction, Joe says he's not popular. That's an important fact about his character. The conflict, he wants to date a popular girl. Her name is Lisa, and she's out of this world. She only dates jocks, but he still makes the offer when he asks Lisa out on a date to Red Lobster. She says yes, and the plot thickens. The rising action adds a little tension, but then Joe is grossed out by the way she chooses the climax. That information is new. It's a turning point for Joe, and things change after. Their relationship ending is the falling action. So the resolution to this conflict or conclusion is Joe and Lisa didn't stick. You got a story to tell, you better have a plot. If it doesn't, am I listening? No I'm not. First, introduce the conflict and characters, then the action rises. It may get scarier, the climax is when things go nuts. The action falls away, then we wrap it up. Yup, that's the conclusion. Make your plot hot, and you're never losing.
So let's go back and talk now about A Long Walk to Water's plot. Find this page in your packet. Just to review, the exposition is the beginning of the story. This is when we learn about the characters and the setting. The rising action is when events are moving us toward a conflict. What are the characters doing to try to resolve an issue? There's several events that kind of build up to one major event, which we call the climax. This is the most suspenseful, exciting part. You are on the edge of your seat. You can't put the book down. It is so exciting. There's a major turn in the plot. This is totally where conflict is decided one way or another. And finally, the falling action is when things are kind of being figured out. There's a resolution on the way, meaning we're moving towards an agreement of answer a solution. And finally, that resolution is at the very end of the story. All of our questions are answered. Loose ends are tied up. Conflict in general is a problem. Usually it's a struggle a character in the book faces. There are two types of conflicts. There's internal, with a character within themselves, and external, when it's a character who's arguing with another character or another person or an outside force. So I want you to spend some time now to think about the plot. I would start by identifying the characters, Selva and Naya, the setting. It primarily is in South Sudan, but we know that they travel to other places as well. And then I would start by thinking, what is the most intense part of the book? And that's where I would identify the climax. Sometimes for me, it's easier to figure out what is the most intense part and then work backwards with the events leading up to the climax. After we think of the climax, then think of two events that happen after that. Maybe it's when Selva goes to America, or maybe it's after the death of Uncle, or maybe it's after Selva getting to America, Selva going back to Sudan. You can kind of decide and lay out your events. The ending would be how the book ends. So Naya and Selva meet. Now it's interesting that this book does have two main characters. I find it easier, or I guess I would urge you to do a plot map for just really thinking of Selva right now. You could do two if you really want, with Naya's kind of story involved too. I would really stick with the Selva one for now. And really we know that the conflict has a lot to do with war, water. So we could say Selva versus war, survival, water. And point of view is who is the story being told from. So we know it's being told from Naya and Selva. I'm going to challenge you to start this on your own. We're going to go through this in class together to tweak and adjust what you've come up with.